Welcome to the Central Conversations podcast. Today's podcast is about back to school, a back to school survival guide. It's an interview with Hannah Collins and with Kayla Myers. Welcome to the podcast. Today's podcast is entitled Back to School Survival Guide. Today we are interviewing two children's professionals who specialize and work with kids. Kayla Myers is the director of Clubhouse Central, which is a preschool and after-school ministry of Central United Methodist Church. She and her team work with about 75 kids each day from ages 9 months to 13. And Hannah Collins is a director of children's ministry at Central United Methodist Church. And before she started this position, she was an elementary school teacher who is recognized as outstanding in her field and was Teacher of the Year in Anderson County. So both Kayla and Hannah are also moms who live in the real world, who will share their expertise and from their personal experiences on how do we make the transition back to the school a smooth experience, and for some cases might be their first time. So welcome Kayla and Hannah to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I kind of give a little bit of bio about each of you, but can you each tell us a little bit more about yourselves personally and professionally?
So I graduated from East Tennessee State University. I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood development and a minor in sociology. I know you mentioned that I am a mom, so I have a 5-year-old who will also be starting kindergarten this year. So I'm in this boat of all the moms and those first-time jitters. And so kind of like about us. So in our spare time, me and my little girl just love to be outside. Anything, whether it's water, hiking, just being out in nature is where you'll basically find us if the weather's good.
Cool. How about you, Hannah?
Yeah, I actually went to the University of Tennessee, and I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in elementary education. So I taught 2 years in 4th grade and 2 years in 2nd grade. And then I resigned to stay at home with my 9-month-old. My husband's name's Matthew, and my almost 10-month-old is Hudson. And then I took on this position early summer to kind of get to work with kids again. I really missed that and balance the mom life as well. So I'm looking forward to this new role.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we're glad that you're here. I wanted to think about, the first day of school, some of my memories of going back to school, like 7th grade. I grew up in Philadelphia. We always started school the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. And I remember walking to get on the bus, which was 1.5 miles from my school. And I just remember walking to that one spot and wondering, am I in the right spot? Am I going to be late for school? I was just worried, a little anxious. What are some of your memories, either going back to school in either elementary school or middle or high school?
I think something that shocked me is, as a student and as a teacher, my feelings were exactly the same. So I'd always wake up really early and usually not really sleep well the night before because I was nervous, whether I was a student or a teacher. But it was also an exciting nervous. I just remember always kind of being up the whole night and as soon awake before the alarm went off and feeling that, yay, I'm excited because I love, new school supplies and the excitement of seeing who's in our class and meeting your new teacher. But also there were always nerves there, whether it was my 5th year teaching or PC or not. It was just something that was always exciting and nerve-wracking as well.
So both kids and parents all have anxiety at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Kayla?
I think my first memories, I know Hannah talks more of how hers are memories. I remember just really getting school supplies. That was my favorite thing about going back to school is my sister and I would go up and would get, different binders. We'd have different colors for different subjects. And then same as Hannah. So we did a lot of kind of first day jitters. So we would always lay our outfits out the night before. So we'd get really excited about our first outfit we're going to wear. I was uniform, so I mean, I didn't have a lot to choose from, but we would still, pick that stuff out. So I think a lot of it's just kind of like those memories and just kind of being excited. I mean, I think Hannah hit it right on the head that you get really nervous whether you're a parent, teacher, or as a mom. I mean, I experienced it from all three standpoints.
Yeah, there's a sense of a good anxiety at the same time, like excitement about getting back. And, I was thinking about this year, 2021, some kids, I have one of them who hasn't been in a school building for, I guess, a year and a half, because of the pandemic. So what do you think some kids are thinking about as they go back to school this year? And it might be, younger ones like kindergartners, like you said, for the first time, or even elementary school kids who maybe were in and out with virtual learning. What are some of the things that you think that they're maybe thinking about or maybe anxious about?
I know we have after school kids here in the summer, and I've been kind of hanging out with them a little bit the last couple of weeks. And a lot of them have all basically said the same thing. They're a little nervous about, their classroom. Are they going to have friends in their classroom and who their teachers will be? Which is all like very normal emotions to experience as kids. But I think, just as parents, I think it's important to, talk to them about a lot of these stuff prior to going, letting them know like, hey, this is what's going to be happening. These are the things you're going to be experiencing. Like you may be in a new classroom. For my little girl, her new cases, she'll be going to a whole new school. So for me, I've really been kind of using that approach, like, hey, this is your new school, like you're going to have new friends. And for her, it's like, am I going to know anyone? Even though she doesn't know anyone, my whole thing is no, but you're just think of all the friends you're going to make. So kind of like putting this spin on it, that even if it is an unfamiliar setting or environment, that look at the possibilities. You're going to have so many friends, you're going to meet new people, the new experiences, the new environment. So really just kind of encouraging that as a parent, and then also letting the kids know like these feelings and that you feel and experience are normal. These are normal emotions that all kids around you are feeling. They're all nervous of who their teacher's going to be. Are they going to know friends? Are they going to be familiar with their classroom?
I completely agree. I think something that's really important to children is just routine and knowing what to expect. And that's why no matter if you're a kindergartner or a high school senior, you get nervous because you're not sure what the routine's going to be. But I think it's really important for parents to encourage students, just like you said, Kayla. And I think something to keep in mind and to remind students is that teachers know that they're going to spend the whole first week pretending almost like you don't know anyone in the classroom, making sure there's icebreaker games and ways for you to get involved with the other students. And they'll spend so much time on what routines are, whether there are still COVID routines left over that they're nervous about not knowing or not. Like teachers spend so much time going over all of that because they know that's what makes students feel safe and comfortable. So I think that would give me a peace of mind as a student, thinking like, as soon as I walk in that classroom, there's going to be something set up for me to do. Maybe a coloring page laid out with crayons ready to go. Like I'll know where to put my backpack because teachers have thought through all of those things. They're never just going to leave the kid hanging and saying, oh, you don't know what to do. So that's something I think that would make me feel better as a student, reminding them that.
Yeah, and that's good. And we'll talk about teachers here in a little bit. But just that idea that, teachers are already planning on your kids, in a sense, feeling anxious and awkward at times, and they're trying to figure out on the front end how they can to ease that transition, to make that easier for them. And Kayla, you're talking about attitude. I read this article by John Acuff a few weeks ago in preparation for this podcast, and it said the hardest part of summer ending is pretending you're not happy about it as a parent. So I can identify with that. So talk about some examples of having a positive attitude as a parent, just in helping that transition to be smooth.
That's kind of like the first thing I was going to say on this question is that kids like pick up on the energy that you give off. And if they sense if you're nervous, they sense if you're excited. So like my approach, like I said, like my little girl's doing a new school. I think telling stories that show that you relate to them. Like I explained how we had to move from Chattanooga to Knoxville. So I explained like, hey, like mommy knows how you feel. Like whenever I was in 7th grade, like I was really nervous like you were. Like I was really nervous about my new school. I moved a whole new city. I moved a new house. And kind of letting her know that these feelings and nerves are okay, but also showing her how exciting it is. Like, I can't wait. Like, we've drove by her new school. We've also gone and looked at the playground and talked about, like, wow, you're going to be, look at the monkey bars on here. Like, you know, talking about all the different things that example this playground has that her current playground doesn't. So really kind of like boosting that confidence, not only in her, but I've also been encouraging her, like, think about all that you're going to be learning. Like, this time next year, you're going to be reading. Like, you're going to be able to spell stuff for me, and you're going to be able to read signs as we pass. So I think it kind of goes back to like how whatever you're giving off to them is what they're going to pick up on. So I think just really showing them that, one, you can relate to their emotions, whether it's nerves or excitement or just that new nervous jitters, letting them know that you relate to that, as well as showing them how excited and how what awesome learning opportunities. Talk about things that they may experience that year. Like, this is the year you're in second grade, you get to go on field trips now, you know? So really kind of keying in and showing, like, these are new exciting levels that come whenever you move up a grade. These are new experiences that you get to experience. So I think just really showing them that, and then kind of reminding them and letting them know things that they will be experiencing throughout the year really kind of gives that them that excitement as well.
That's good. That's good. What about you, Hannah?
I think in terms of especially the first day, just making sure, like you said, Kayla, to prep the student as much as possible. Maybe like if you have a kindergartner, find out, will that school allow parents to come in this year? If so, you know, think through that so your child knows, okay, my mom's going to walk me to the door. We're going to give our high five hug, and then I'm on my way. Or will mom or dad be walking me into the gym and getting to eat some, or go to the cafeteria, eat some breakfast with me. But just so they kind of know, like, what to expect, where's that parting going to be. I think that can be a little bit difficult sometimes for kindergartners, kind of knowing like, okay, I'm ready to go off on my own now. This is the time I do it. So prepping your kindergartner for that would be really important. And then as kids get older, kind of still the same thing, you know, like you said, Kayla, talk, that encouragement, talk. And I think it's okay that parents are excited, you know, like, I think kids are excited too to have a whole different environment and to have new people to talk to and new things to do. So parents shouldn't be ashamed, you know, to be excited that their kids are starting school again, because that excitement is going to rub off to their students. That's something you want for sure. So, you know, just sharing in your excitement, ask the child what they're looking forward to. And maybe even if you know something is going to happen, like, oh, I want you to look for this today and tell me how that was, or, you know, let's see what your first lunch at school is going to be, or something that the child can look forward to through the day and get to report back when the parent picks them up.
Yeah, that's good. And, you know, the other thing I thought about was just after, a lot of times there's a lot of after school programs that kind of start up, like a gymnastics or a sport or something like that. And just there's, you know, it's good to have a break and enjoy your summer vacation and kind of squeeze the last bit you can out of it. But at the same time, there's some joy kind of getting back into your more normal routines and things that you wouldn't be able to do before, but now that you're able to do because of the normal schedule. One of the challenges, at least we've experienced, is getting up. Like you talked about that first day, right? So it is, you know, like waking the dead sometimes, right? So how do you kind of, if you think a couple weeks, I mean, we're recording this in mid July, but you know, how do you make that transition easier to allow that first day not to like be yelling to get in the car and here's a Pop-Tart type of experience? So any tips on making that less stressful?
I think I know as a teacher, it was hard for me because I tend to be a night owl. And so over the summer, I tend to stay up really late and want to sleep in. So a couple of weeks before it's time to start, you know, getting up, children up early again, I would go ahead and start slowly pushing bedtime back up 15 minutes each night, maybe. And so that way, by the time school's ready to start, they're a little bit more set on a schedule of, okay, now I'm ready back to my 8:30 bedtime and getting up at 6. That, and also just prepping everything you can the night before, have that lunch packed, have those clothes out. And if you can involve your child in those choices, that's exciting for them. So, oh yeah, I get to put on my clothes I picked out yesterday for the first time. Like that's something they want to get out of bed for. And then thirdly, maybe a motivator to get out of bed. Oh, if we're ready by this time, we'll have time for this special breakfast. You know, that sort of thing would help I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, if I don't get up now, I won't have time for coffee. I'm getting up now. So kind of doing some like positive motivator for your child would help them, I think, pop out of bed earlier.
That's good. That's a good. What about you, Kayla?
Hannah basically hit it. I was going to say, like, so we did as kids growing up, we always did like 2 weeks before school started. We had to get on our nighttime and morning routine. So my mom worked at our school, so we had to get there really early. So we were always at school by like 7:30. So for the first 2 weeks, that's what we did. We would, before school started, we were back on our bedtime routine by like 8 o'clock, up by 7, to get there, whatever it was. And then I think Hannah hit it right. So like I do that with my daughter. Like I have her every night, like we pick out our clothes for the night before so that that's already done so that you're not running around trying to figure out what they're wearing or arguing, about the outfit, as well as helping them, like she said, have everything done the night before. So we do lunches the night before, everything that we can. And I have her be a part of it. So like we'll go through it after dinner is usually when me and her, when we're cleaning up dinner, put our plates away is when then we go and do our lunch for the next day. Like, what is it you want me to cook now? Like, I can do this, this, this. And then I also have breakfast already decided for us. I'll give her like options. Like, these are the things that we can have in the morning. Let me know. Like, let's know tonight. Like, what do you want? That way in the morning, I already know, hey, this is what I'm making. She already knows what she's having. It's not an argument, and everyone's kind of already prepared. Like, we know we're having this for lunch. We know we're having this for breakfast. Your clothes are already laid out. You basically get your clothes on, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
So I think basically doing as much as you can the night before.
Yeah, and I guess also recognizing, depending upon how many kids you have, that's just really stressful for you too. I remember one year, because we had 5 kids. I remember one year we had 4 schools we had to drive to, so we had to divide and conquer. So planning in advance really helps if possible. One of the most important things for kids is about who's my friend. Any advice that you would have that you would tell your kids of ways to kind of make friends early on?
I do feel like teachers give a lot of opportunities to reach out to other students. So I would encourage your child to really play into that and to take that as a good opportunity. Don't be afraid to go up to someone and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and always find a personal connection is kind of what I talk about with my students. So like, maybe you can give them a compliment on the color they're wearing, or you notice that they drew a baseball in theirs. Oh, I like baseball too. So finding that personal connection and being confident to reach out is always a great place to start.
Okay, that's good. Kayla?
I was gonna say for more of like our kids, like our elementary that we deal with and like preschool, we talk about kind of like the golden rule, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So for us, like we talk a lot like, hey, if you see a friend that is playing by themselves, like you go play with them. Like, how would you feel? You would feel sad if you were playing by yourself. So I kind of give, like, I know with my kid and like as our kids here at the school, I give reminders of that. Like, so and so isn't playing with me. I'm like, but yeah, but look at all these other friends. Like, we can go here. You can ask them, like, did you ask? Like, hey, can we play? Or just go in and join in. And I know with the younger kids, like they do this whole thing. Can I play with you? Can I play with you? Instead of like almost just encouraging, kind of how Hannah said, just to like jump in and like have these conversations and not encourage your kids to know that other kids feel the same way. So just jumping in and talking to them like, hey, like she said, like, hey, I like your shirt. Like, I have a unicorn shirt too, like whatever it is that is that connection. I mean, just encouraging your kids, like, hey, kids feel the same way. Like if you see someone sitting by themselves, go sit with them. You wouldn't want it to. So just really encouraging kind of the do unto others as you would do, haven't done unto you.
Okay. I'm thinking that's good. I'm thinking about since both of you have been, and our teachers in terms of that first day and that first week of school, are there any practical like do's and don'ts that you would share? I'm thinking primarily younger kids, that first day of school, like being able to let them go, those types of things that you just think, do this, but try not to do that based on your experience.
I was gonna say
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say a big like don't that so like it's really common for us mamas, like when our babies are crying, what do we want to do? Like, oh, I'll just hold on them, I'll just love on them a little bit longer, like let me just have a few more minutes, when in reality that's like the worst thing you can do. So yes, they will be sad. You're probably more sad than they are, but really once you drop them out of sight, out of mind is really how it is for a lot of kids. So once you drop them, especially with the younger ones, give them a hug and go. It does make that transition a lot more smooth. So that's like a big thing that I notice with parents is, especially the younger ones. Like I was guilty of that. My dad dropped Hadley off when she first started for like 2 months because I was the mom. It's like, it's fine. Like we don't need to come today. Like I'm off, like it's fine. So really just knowing like, hey, you put them here for a reason in this school. They're safe, they're loved, they're cared for. And just almost reminding yourself that as a mom and as a parent, like this crying is typical, it's normal behavior. Kiss and go would be my advice, because like I said, it does get easier and it makes the transition a lot smoother for the child.
I completely agree. That's actually what I was going to mention as well. I know, especially in kindergarten, that was really tough on some kindergartners. So I think going back to talking through what is that sign that I'm leaving now. So like if that's a kiss or if that's, our special handshake, or then that's where it might do good to kind of do a little research and see what the school's policy is. So the child knows what to expect. Okay, when mom walks me to the door, it gives me my high five. That's where I'm going. And like you said, whether there's tears or not, go ahead and follow through. So that child's going to feel safer because they know the routine, they know what to expect. Something else that I would also encourage for older kiddos is, every year things are going to be different. There's going to be different, obviously a different teacher who has different styles and different ways of doing things, different routines. So I think it's easy for, parents and families to compare and think, oh, well, my teacher didn't do that last year. I think just being positive, making sure that child understands that, you are older, so things are going to run differently. Maybe you're going to have more independence. Maybe this teacher collects all the supplies as a community and uses them as a classroom, or maybe you're used to that. And this year your teacher said, keep your supplies in a pouch. But whatever type of new routine it is, just be encouraging and be positive, because that's definitely going to rub off on your child as well. So if they see, their families, their parents, grandparents cheering on their teacher and saying positive things, and I think that's really going to affect their outlook in the classroom as well. So I think that's really important.
Okay. That's good advice. Since you mentioned teachers, what advice would you give for parents to kind of connect with the teachers, what they most need, and to have a good ongoing conversation with their teachers?
I think definitely communicate. Teachers reach out a whole lot with lots of papers and different digital systems now, and making sure you're timely with those responses in the beginning, and that you sign up for those things, whether that's a app to talk to the teacher or some sort of email group. Make sure you sign up for that, get connected, and the earlier you show that engagement and that interest in keeping that communication line open, I think the easier it's going to be. And I know a lot of teachers like to give a lot of positive comments out in the beginning. That's a great way to have that established, so that if there are things that need to be discussed the year that are more challenging, you already have that basis. So really just take every opportunity the teacher provides to communicate. So that way the teacher knows that you're there, you're supporting your child, and you have that positive interest.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Kayla?
I think I'm going to kind of feed off what she said. I think it's really important to know that she just said that the teachers have the kids' best interest. And from a teacher's standpoint, sometimes teachers have to have hard conversations with parents. And some conversations are not easy to have, whether it's, addressing potential learning disabilities or behavioral issues that they may. Note that these conversations are also hard for the teacher, that the teacher is trying to navigate how to relay the information to where you understand, but also making sure that your feelings and that your emotions are taken into consideration. And realizing, kind of like back to what she said, that y'all are on the same team. That at the end of the day, teachers and parents, it's a partnership. And if one's on one page and one's on the other, we're never going to mesh to get the end result, which is the growth of the child. So like she said, really taking those opportunities to reach out, form those relationships in the beginning. And I'm always big on communication. Parents and teachers, from a teacher point as well as a director, like most of the time teachers want your feedback. Teachers want to know, like, hey, like this is what's happening in my child's life, even if it's maybe personal. Sometimes parents and teachers need to know kind of what's going on at home to understand why behaviors are happening or why things are happening. So know as a parent, like, even though these conversations can be tough to explain personal things in your home life that could be going on, that some things like this are beneficial for teachers to know, to help overall round the child how they should and help guide them in the direction that they need to based on situations that could be home life, personal, learning, like I said, learning delays, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. There's so many phone calls I had where, I wanted to discuss because I noticed a change in the student. And I think if I had been aware, earlier, it would have helped me to, help that child, support that child in a different way in the beginning. So I think, a teacher always cares about every one of their children so much. They really do. And like you said, Kayla, that, these conversations can be hard for teachers too, and they're only going to have them when they feel like they are important and they are necessary. So if your teacher is trying to reach out about absolutely anything, know that they do feel like it's something your child needs and they want to support and help your child. So and like you said, also opening that line of communication at the beginning makes those conversations so much easier and more helpful when you're used to communicating back and forth. So communication is key.
Let me ask you this, because I'm one of the challenges as parents, you want to show appreciation to teachers, those who work with your kids. So I'm just thinking beyond like the first week or two, I'm thinking like year round. This is something I struggle with. What do you do to show appreciation to a teacher that's meaningful to them? You know what I mean? So like, whether it's a gift card or, one of the things that teachers kind of appreciate receiving, if you're thinking like, Christmas time or around a holiday or something, what would be helpful if you could get stuff? what would you want, or how would you communicate really more, not just about stuff, but just thank you for the work that you're doing with my kid?
Two thoughts come to mind for me. Anytime I would get a just random parent reach out and say, hey, my child is just so excited this year, thank you so much for fostering that, or my child just picked up a book last night and they've never done that before and asked me to read that, like that means so much. And if you already have that line of communication open and can send that quick message, that is so motivating, because it is hard to, it's easy to get wrapped up, and there's just so much on a teacher's plate with all 25 of their kiddos and what's going on in their lives and what they need academically, plus, on top of administrative duties and all of that. So just having those small little positive messages just make it feel all worth it. So I highly recommend those. And I also, as far as material needs, really appreciate when parents would just check in and say, hey, is there anything you need right now as far as like snacks or, pencils or supplies? Like, it's really great to get all those in the beginning of the year, but by around December, I'm usually, grasping straws, trying to grab things. So just having that random check-in of what can I grab for you at the store this week is super helpful.
That's good.
I agree with Hannah. It's more or less at the beginning of the year, we're great. Everyone's always really like kind of gung ho, like, what can we do? Like, let's be really proactive. But it really is more toward that Christmas, toward that summer break is when really we need more of that stuff. So like she said, just encouraging the families just to ask them, like, what do you need? Whether it's a cleaning supply, dry erase markers, tissues, especially around like January, February. I know I feel like we go through a box of tissue every day in every room. So, so like little things like that. And I agree. It isn't so much like teachers don't really need to be appreciated by gifts, if that makes sense, or like actual physical things. But like she said, like, and like I got a note one year, and it was just letting me know that like, hey, for 2 years, our son cried every day coming to school. And now every day he gets up so excited. And I have that note that's from 3 years ago, my first year at Head Start teaching, and I still have that note saved. So it's more or less like sometimes teachers just need to be reminded that the work that they're doing matters and that it's making a difference, because like Hannah said, like a lot of times teachers have so much on their plate that we sometimes get caught up in like almost like the logistics of things, like the paperwork, and like from like how does it look from the out, instead of what we're really doing in the class, which is what really matters, is those intimate moments we have with the kids, those one-on-one interactions, those conversations that they need. So I think just like letting the teachers know, like, hey, Johnny came home and said that, it really meant a lot that you talked to him whenever he was sitting by himself, whatever it is, but letting teachers know, even if it may seem small, it may not be small to the teacher. It could really change the whole outlook of how she's viewing things in her class. So like I said, just kind of reminding the teachers like, hey, what you're doing matters. Like, this is what they're coming home saying.
That's really excellent. And I think a lot of times you get discouraged by sometimes what you see, or you see behaviors and you think, man, am I really making a difference? Why did I get into teaching? That's a great word just to show that you are making a difference. And a lot of times with kids, you don't see that in the short term. So speaking of kids and thinking about just a couple more quick questions, any suggestions on how to help kids be successful with homework? I know that ranges based on their age and obviously their school. Any suggestions that you've found helpful for homework?
I think getting it finished as early in the evening as possible is great. I think it gets more and more difficult the later you choose to begin that. I know that's not always able to be done based off routine and such, but I think the earlier you can get it done and get it out of the way so that kiddos have time to play and be kids, I think that's really important. And once again, communication, if it's something that's a battle every night and a struggle, and whether that's because parents don't understand it, because everything's different than when we grew up, it really is. And or if it just seems like a lot, I know, especially in younger grades, reach out to your teacher and say, hey, what can we do to let them give you some advice and some help, and they'd be happy to do that to make it a smoother process, because no teacher enjoys thinking about their child coming home and not getting to be with their family.
Gotcha.
I agree with kind of like what Hannah said, like get it done as early as possible. And I think children need a routine. Like growing up, our routine was we were allowed to come home, have a snack, and watch one episode of a show while we were eating our snack, and then we had to go do our homework before we were allowed to play outside. So that was like a big motivation for me and my sister. We usually just get a snack, get our homework done, because most kids want to be outside. And having a routine, having a set space, whether it's at the kitchen table, we typically did all of ours at the kitchen table, or if they have like a special desk in their room or in the house, like this is your homework area, that every day, you come have that same routine, like come in, have a snack, put your homework here. After you eat, let's get in and do these sheets, and then we'll be able to go outside. So I agree that earlier you are able to get it done, because the later you wait, you have things like dinner to make, baths to do, and then the brain is slowly going into nighttime mode, especially with kids and they're kind of just checked out. So to really get them when that juice is still fresh, the earlier you can do it would be the best.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was going to ask you about was like kind of after school, right? Because a lot of kids, depending upon their ages, do sports and balancing kind of sports and homework, or they have after school programs. Any suggestions of just try to how to manage all that? If you think about like fall, winter, spring, how many things you should do, maybe what you shouldn't do. And you also, like for me, I was when I got dropped off by the bus, I had a couple hours at home as a teenager by myself before my mom got home. So I didn't have a lot of things and like extracurricular activities like that sometimes. And now kids play video games like a lot, right? So any other suggestions in terms of after school, whether it's good to be in these types of programs, how to manage that?
Of course, sorry. Go ahead again.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Of course, like you don't want to get to the point of burnout for sure, but I highly recommend taking advantage of those after school programs. They're so good for children just to be at school with maybe different people in a different environment where you're getting to do something you loved. We had a ton of after school clubs of all sorts of different interests, and it was just so neat to get to work with different children and see them in that environment. And I think a lot of parents didn't really understand that it was really for any child interested, that a lot of them thought it was just after school care if their parents were able to pick them up yet. But so we had to encourage parents, even though you're available to pick them up, if they're interested in staying, this is great for them. It really is. And our programs would usually give a time to do homework, so they'd get that done and out of the way, and they'd get to have those interests. And as you think about it, growing up and going through high school, colleges are looking for you to be well-rounded and to see what all things you've been plugged into school. So I think starting that young and starting to let that child find their interest and see what excites them is important. So I'd highly recommend taking advantage of those programs.
Okay.
I agree with Hannah. I think kids, especially in today's world, they are kind of technology glued. So I think any chance, I mean, even with the way the education system's going, everything's computer based. I think it's really important for kids to stay active, whether even if it's not an interest as a sport per se, whether it's art, dance, whatever it is, drama, whatever their interest is, encourage that. It doesn't have to be your interest. Like as a parent, I'll be honest, I don't like crafts. I absolutely hate arts and crafts. My kid is obsessed with arts and crafts. So I'm learning to love arts and crafts because that's what she is passionate about. She loves to make bracelets. She loves to make things. So I think it's also important for parents to key in and see what it is and encourage them to do that. Encourage them to be in these after school camps, whether it's a sport, an activity, or just like kind of an after school program, because not only is it a way for them to meet friends and make connections, it's also a great way just to kind of have, when kids are idle, not a lot of good things come just from idleness, So keeping kids busy, keeping them engaged in activities that, help propel them forward, sports, whatever it is, because I mean, example, most like in high school, you have to have a certain GPA to even play sports. So, there's also advantages to these things. And even with after school programs, like we have our after school program, encourage your kids to do the homework. Like we have the opportunity, like we have some who they want to go play first and then do homework. And some are like, I want to get this homework out of the way and then I'm free and like done for the rest of the night. But also talk with whatever after school program there is to make sure that there is an option or a time for them to do their homework. Because then again, if they are in these programs, depending on how late they are, you don't want to get into like they haven't done their homework. We still have dinner, baths, and all this to where it is, more of an issue. But like I said, just making sure, because like Hannah said, most of these programs offer a time for them to do homework kind of before jumping in and doing these activities, these extracurricular things. But I think it is very important that parents encourage, and like I said, encourage whatever it is their interests are, whether it's arts and crafts or sports or, dance, whatever. Make sure that it's what they're interested in, because that's what's going to really keep them engaged in these activities.
Great. That's good. Well, thanks for being on the podcast today and helping parents and kids have a good start. Is there any kind of final encouragement that you would give to the parents watching today?
Just say, the two main things are that positive attitude and communication, I think are really going to help set the year for success. Communication, not only with teachers, but with your child, of what to expect and routines and that sort of thing, so they feel prepped and ready to go. And as a teacher, a former teacher, if I can ever answer any other questions or help with any other personal matters, I'm happy for anyone to reach out and ask me any other questions. So feel free to contact me.
Absolutely. Kayla, anything?
Just know that a lot of things that you experience as parents, other parents are experiencing it too. The kids are experiencing it too. So know that you're never in the boat alone. And like Hannah said, always reach out, whether it's to the teacher, to one of us, Hannah or I or Scott, knowing that there's people that feel the same way that you do and that you have people that are there to support whatever it is that you or your child may need.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.